Welcome on this second day of October to the October CityLearn, all about roundabouts. It's a little bit interesting because we already have some art, some lovely figures on the floor, and with a great speaker today, Corey, who is a roundabout enthusiast. And he is going to try to temper that down a little bit when he gives his presentation today. I'm Bethany Walbrook-Dunn, Community Services Manager here at the City of Shoreline. As most of you know, Constance Prenny retired from her position as the Community Opportunities Coordinator. So last month was her final CityLearn, and I'm really pleased to introduce Mallory, who I'm going to let speak and just introduce herself a little bit, who started yesterday in her position as Constance's replacement. So Mallory?
Well, thanks, Bethany. Good evening. Hi, everybody. Mallory Van Abema, and as Bethany said, this is day 2 for me, but please don't be gentle or give me extra grace. I am a fellow Shorelinian. I live in the Echo Lake neighborhood. I am also an enthusiast of roundabouts, so excited to hear about the project tonight. And I want to make myself available. I'm pleased to move into the Community Opportunities Coordinator role, and really excited to work with the residents in the city and make sure that we're, accessing services and doing what we can to get the word out about upcoming projects and things of the like. So, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Mallory. And like she said, don't go easy on her. She's ready. And with that, I'd like to introduce Councilmember Adamasu, who's here to share a few thoughts with us before we get into our presentation. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember Adamasu.
Good evening. So they asked me to tell a little bit about myself so residents can get to know their council members. So I am your council member here tonight, Annette Adamasu. So I'm just really glad to be here, and I'm glad to see the people in the audience here. I was newly elected in January of this year. My background, I grew up one of 5 kids in Decatur, Illinois. Later, I spent years northwest of Chicago in Arlington Heights, where most of my family still resides. I had an aunt in Puyallup, and my grandfather lived in Grants Pass. So through family visits out to the Pacific Northwest, when I was a kid, I always said, when I grow up, I'm going to move to the Pacific Northwest. I graduated from the university with a BS degree in environmental biology. I've worked as a laboratory analyst in Houston, Texas. I was in the Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic as the staff biologist in a mountainous national park there. I'm fortunate I learned to speak Spanish there, so I am fluent in Spanish. I realized my dream, of course, and moved out to Seattle. I started working with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and then moved to the State Department of Ecology, where I still work. I got married. We had twins. Unfortunately, my husband passed away when the twins were only 2 years old. I worked very hard. I struggled as a limited income single parent. We lived in a 1-bedroom duplex for about 4 years. Then I was fortunate enough to buy a home here in Shoreline, and we've lived here for 26 years. And I'm going to retire here. I'm here for good. So this is my forever home. Why did I run for Shoreline City Council? Well, back when I moved to Seattle in 1984, I started working as a poll worker, my first job here. I lived in Queen Anne at the time. Then much later, when Obama announced he was running, I became a volunteer, and I joined the 32nd Legislative District. I later became an acting precinct committee officer in my neighborhood. If your precinct currently has a precinct committee officer, you can find a vacant PCO area that doesn't have a PCO, and you can be an acting PCO in a different neighborhood if your neighborhood has a current PCO. So there are many opportunities out there if you would like to, put your feet in the water as an kind of that first elected official type of job. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm still a PCO, and I actually love knocking on doors. So I've been a public servant most of my life. I've worked internationally, federal, state, and decided to act on the words, think globally, act locally. So with support from others, I decided to run for city council, and I thank the residents for electing me last year. Some of my other volunteer experience, I've worked with Climate Rail Alliance. I'm a strong supporter of rail for transportation. I was one of the founding members of United Shoreline Organized Against Racism. I worked with Seattle Against Slavery, where we went into the high schools and taught prevention of human trafficking for young girls. I worked in El Salvador with Mothers of the Disappeared during the war. I lived and worked in the Navajo Reservation, assisting Dene families there. I'm really grateful and humbled to work for the community here as a council member. It's a lot of work, it is a lot of hours, but I've met so many wonderful people. I thoroughly enjoyed knocking on doors, speaking with residents, listening to people, what's important to people here. I've met many people in this position. There's a lot of networking opportunities. It's very inspiring. People are working to solve serious problems and make our communities better. There's so many honorable, dedicated, and positive-looking people. It's very different than what you would think turning on the news. Government's made up of individuals, of people that want to make the world a better place. Some of the issues that are close to my heart is the environment, affordable housing, and health issues, both physical and mental. I dedicate my work to utilize both my knowledge and expertise and continue to learn as much as possible, listen to many viewpoints, research, and make decisions on council that take all of that into account for our generations to come. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer questions in person, and if there's anything in the chat, and if there's no questions, we've got a lot of roundabouts to learn about tonight. So thank you for the opportunity to sharing a little bit about myself. Don't be shy, and you don't have to treat me lightly, like Mallory said. So, anything online? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I just jump into it? Oh, we don't have a presentation of it. Sorry.
Just trying to enable questions for the
Gotcha.
student audience.
Let's get to the good stuff.
Sorry. Wait, hold on. This is why you can't have me do this. Technical difficulties that come with not having a person.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll start with an introduction. My name is Corey Now. I'm the project manager for the 145th Corridor and Interchange project, as well as some of the subsequent phases 2 and 3 projects. So 145th is my home. I sleep out there some nights. But I do want to invite you all, or thank you all for being out here tonight. This is going to be a good opportunity to learn primarily about roundabouts. However, when we go through the agenda, you'll see a quick note on a project update. So let's get to it. Updates. So like I said, we'll start with a project update. I'm going to talk real quick about what we've accomplished to date and what to expect moving forward. Then I'm going to jump right into roundabouts because that's the best part of tonight. I'm going to talk about benefits, how to use a roundabout, and then I'm going to explain this lovely new carpet we've got here that'll be here for the next 2 years. And then we'll jump into some questions and answers. So as a construction update, to date, we've had a bit of success with utility coordination and installation of new systems, particularly on the west side of the freeway where we've had the full closure. So we've relocated quite a few systems, power, telecommunications. We're currently working on water and sewer, and we have completed that in some parts. And then we've also completed some other underground utilities that we're working with in varying degrees of success. We've also, one of the big things, another underground utility you'll see there is that detention vault in the bottom right of the screen. And then one of the big profile changes we've made is we've started doing some vertical construction by installing walls that'll support the sidewalk. So if you're out there walking around or driving by the site, you'll start to see where that outer limit of that northward expansion will be, which is pretty exciting. And then as the year progresses, we'll put sidewalks on top, and by the end of the year, you'll be able to walk on that, which is really cool, at least that part of it. The construction timeline on the next slide. So we are moving a little slower than expected. A lot of that is due to the underground utilities. It's a bit of a spaghetti mess under there, and we are working with installations that happened in the 20s. So over 100 years old are some of the utilities under there, and one of the benefits, I'll put in quotations, is that 145th serves as a major backbone for a lot of telecommunications and water and sewer that happen. It's kind of that big going down in the valley of I-5 main corridor. So everything we touch is big and impactful, and it requires a lot of coordination, and there are people who are very protective of it. So everything we do gets a little bit slower anytime there needs to be a change. So with that in mind, we had originally advertised a 7-month full closure of 145th, and regrettably we've had to extend that because of some of those delays. We are currently extending into early 2025. And that's just we've solved a lot of our problems. Now it's just time to institute those problems, or institute those solutions. Not the problems, those are done. So as we continue to work on this project, you'll start to see some of our expansion. Ooh, I like having this map out here. So you'll start to see some of our expansion over to the east side of I-5. If you've driven that area, you've seen 5th Avenue get pinched down a little bit on the Seattle side. So we're starting to make space for being able to work on those roundabout outer perimeters there, as well as do some utility relocation in those areas, particularly on the south side. As we complete that work, we'll start to move on the north side, on the east side as well. And then you'll continue to see the development. If you keep going over to the west, you'll see a lot of improvements and some of that final installations of sidewalk go in, which is pretty exciting for me to see. So just as a quick recap on our full closure, as a reminder, we are closed from 1st Avenue to the freeway. Also, as a reminder, the I-5 southbound on and off ramps are still open, so you can still use them as you've always had to or been able to. So that red area shows our closure. We did institute last week, 2 weeks ago, the pedestrian detour up to 147th. So if you're crossing over the I-5 bridge, you'll go up the side of the ramp protected by barrier, and then you'll cross over onto 147th and walk on the north side of those developments there. So there's barrier that's delineated there, so you should be able to cross between, separated from the development construction there. We are aware of one incident where there's a car that's been blocking a walkway, so we're talking to the owner and making sure that they're moving that or not blocking the walkway there, so bicyclists in particular can get through easily. Also, as you're moving through, whether it's on the detour or walking along 145th, just some work zone safety reminders. If you're a pedestrian, please stay out of the work zone. The barriers and barrels are there to help keep you safe, keep you well away from the work. So stay out of the work zone and please follow the signage for that safe path. If you have any questions, please don't wander into a work zone. Try to flag down one of the personnel that's out there and somebody can assist you. But we definitely don't want you walking where there's heavy equipment. And then for drivers, just a constant reminder, please slow down, be kind, pay attention, and stay calm. Again, if you have any questions, there's a lot of personnel out there. Please find a safe place to park and ask questions, or you can email me, not while you're out there, not while you're driving, but afterwards we have the hotline that I'll post at the end. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's go on to roundabouts. So what you see before you and on the floor and on a piece of paper over there and online is our new roundabout alignment, which is it's a bit new to the area. So we have what are called multi-lane or spiral roundabouts. And if anybody wants to ask about spiral roundabouts, please let me know. I promise I want to talk about it in my presentation, but if you ask questions, I will. But they are a little bit bigger, and they house a lot more traffic than a single lane roundabout will. It does come with some complications, but we do our best to provide signage that will help. And then we're also performing this outreach as a means of getting ahead of some of those questions. So some of you might be asking the questions or have already asked the questions of why did we select a roundabout? People aren't used to them, they're new to the area, and especially with this much volume, what makes this the good choice? So the roundabout benefits are, there are fewer conflict points. So if you look at the diagram on the right of the screen, you'll see a quick graphical description of how many times you conflict with a vehicle if you're using a roundabout or if you're using a regular intersection. And there are numbers there, and it kind of depends on what type of roundabout or what type of intersection you've got. But typically with a roundabout, you're cutting your conflict points with other vehicles and pedestrians by about 75%, which is pretty substantial. And then the second part of that is there are fewer severe collisions in a roundabout. So if you imagine in an intersection, you're almost constantly exposed to either head-on or T-bone type collisions, and those are the predominant, or not the predominant, but they are much higher likelihood of happening at an intersection, whereas a roundabout, you're constantly merging with traffic, kind of like you do on a freeway. So any type of collision that happens there, it can't be head-on. It'll be more bumper-to-bumper collision is the far more likely collision, or sometimes you get into a kind of a side swipe type collision, but they are far less severe in nature. One of the other benefits of roundabouts is you're doing it at a much slower speed. So roundabouts passively control speed. That's it. They make it kind of windy, and in order to navigate, you have to steer around. So roundabouts, you end up driving much slower, whereas an intersection, you can take at the speed limit, which is 35 miles an hour on this road. So that's a much higher rate of speed that causes much worse collisions. Another benefit of roundabouts is that they allow continual flow of traffic, which minimizes delays and improves the circulations for all users. And another benefit of that is when you're constantly moving, you're not doing that really greenhouse gas emitting version of stopping and starting again. So being able to navigate a roundabout at 15 miles an hour saves a lot of gas and a lot of greenhouse gases versus coming to a full stop and then accelerating again. We're gonna talk about how to use a roundabout. So this information can actually be found on the WSDOT page, and it gives a really nice step-by-step process of when you approach a roundabout, what you should be thinking about. So as you're coming up to a roundabout, you want to slow down when approaching. So the signs that you see here are the ones that we'll have out there, and it'll say something to the effect of 15 miles an hour as a cautionary speed to slow down to when you're approaching. And then as you get a little closer, there'll be signs on the side of the road and markings, you can see them on the map up here, for lane selection. So as you approach, you want to pick your lane that goes the direction you want to go. And then as you get a little closer, you'll yield to pedestrians. Another benefit of roundabouts is that it pulls the crossings away from the intersection a little bit, so you can think about only yielding to pedestrians prior to thinking about traffic. And as you get up here, you'll see that distance between when the crossing is and when you actually enter where traffic will be in the roundabout. So after you've yielded to pedestrians, you'll yield to the traffic in the roundabout. And when you yield to traffic, you're only looking left. You don't have to worry about what's happening to the right unless cars are stopped. You're only looking for a space to the left. And then as you enter the roundabout, you're going to the right to start circulating in actually, for you, it's in a counterclockwise direction. And then you just stay in your lane, once the one you've selected, until you find the street you're looking for. So that's a few steps. You can think about it. If you want to come up after our presentation, you can kind of walk through the path. You can absolutely walk on this. You can scuff. We've got cars over there if you want to get on hands and knees and drive it around. Totally acceptable. There's also a table over there with a smaller version of this map if you want to do the same effort. But I encourage you to come up and just kind of visualize those steps as you're walking through. A question we get is what happens when there's an emergency vehicle and when you're in the roundabout? And the answer is pretty simple. Get your way through the roundabout and then pull over. Don't stop in the roundabout, just find your turn, pull off to the side once you've exited the roundabout. And then another more common thing that'll happen is what happens when there's large trucks and buses that are in the roundabout. As you can imagine, the light rail station is really close to the east roundabout, so there's going to be a lot of buses. Hopefully there's a lot of buses. We're hoping people keep using those buses. And the simple answer is large vehicles and buses will take up more space. And so with roundabouts of this size, they'll straddle the lane line or use the truck apron, which is the red part you see in most roundabouts. It could also be gray, but in this one it's going to be red. So the simple way to interact with large trucks and buses is just give them space. You're not going to want to drive next to them because their trailer or the back end of the bus will swing into that lane line, and you don't want to be next to them. So just give them a little space, drive behind them, and they know how to navigate the roundabout. All right, so I talked about it a little bit, but we now have we will have an opportunity as soon as this presentation is over to kind of plan your route if you're in person. If you're online, you can go online to find one of those maps and use your eyes to follow the route. Luckily here, we get to use our feet or our hands or our eyes. So just I would encourage you to come up. You can, like I said, walk on the map and just plan out your route that you're most commonly going to take. So if you're over in Ridgecrest, how would you get to I-5 southbound? How would you get to the light rail station? If you're in Parkwood, how would you get to the light rail station or out to Lake City? Just kind of think about some of the routes you're going to use. And again, you can either walk on this map up here, look from the side, or you can use the cars over there. And then also, you can ask me questions. We also have a couple other people here who you can ask questions. But I would encourage you to just interact as much as you feel comfortable with. And then as we move forward with this project, we are continuing to keep our communities and partners informed. We're using road signs and briefings and meetings like this one. I hope all of you are signed up for the listserv because Elizabeth does a great job with weekly updates. And then we will be doing... Sure, yeah, that's a great idea. So if you go to either the Engage site or our 145th project site, there'll be an opportunity for you to sign up for updates. That's the listserv. So you click on that, and then you'll provide your email address, and then it goes into our listserv. And then when we push out an update about construction or a major update on the project, it'll go to your email. I get it, I think, 3 times between my work email, my personal email, and my wife's email. So I read it each and every time, just in case something's changed. But that's where you can get the most weekly updates. I sure do. On my next slide.
I'm going to bring the mic around just because we've got folks online who can't hear us unless we're speaking to the mic. So the question was, where can we find the listserv subscribe button? I don't doubt that the folks in here can project. I just want to make sure that the folks online can hear us as well. Yeah. Oh. Gotcha.
Or are you trying to eavesdrop? So what Tavia just passed around was a folio that has some of our project information and this layout of the map. So if you want one, you can see her. I think we've got Mallory's got one right there. So either right now you can raise your hand or catch one afterwards. The question that you asked was, is there a project website? And then the follow-up is there an email? So on this page, there's a QR code that'll bring you there, but we have an Engage website, which is the engage.shorelinelaw.gov 145 corridor. We've also got an email, 145project@shorelinelaw.gov. And then you can also, if you really want to talk to Elizabeth, you can call the 24-hour hotline. It may not be her all the time, but it is somebody. So we've gotten a few questions through there already. So with that, that is the presentation on roundabouts. We did leave a lot of time for robust conversation and questions, so I think we're gonna do cards.
We're going to alternate between online and in person.
Okay. Do we want to do cards or just do
Oh, you want to do
mics?
cards first or questions?
Let's just do mics.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just have a card from someone
Yeah,
else.
we have online,
Oh,
and
okay.
then, like Mallory mentioned, just make sure that we can get the mic to you so everyone can hear. Thank you.
Should we start with online? All right. How will the roundabouts affect traffic entering and leaving the freeways and the speed coming off of the freeway? There are lights now that limit the cars entering the freeway. How will that work with the roundabouts?
Yeah, so in our traffic analysis, I think what the question's asking is particular to southbound I-5. So the idea of free flow coming out of the intersection into southbound I-5. So when we did our traffic analysis, it was not shown to be severely impactful, and in fact had very little impact on the overall operation of mainline southbound I-5. There's an element to this project that isn't, you can kind of see, but it isn't quite clearly shown on our maps. There will be a light for the northbound I-5 on-ramp, which kind of doesn't operate. It operates fine, slightly better than what it is right now, but it'll allow surging traffic onto I-5 northbound. And so that'll be the intersection that's just south of the light rail station, kind of on this 5th Avenue leg to the north. I think, was there a second part to that question about vehicles entering the roundabout from I-5?
Yes. So how will it affect traffic entering and leaving the freeways?
Yeah, okay, so the traffic that's leaving I-5, if you envision what's happening here on the southbound off-ramp, one of the benefits or one of the design elements of roundabouts is that the legs that enter into the roundabout will have progressively sharper corners, sharper radii on the corners, and what that does is passively slow people down. So if you look at that, I'm pointing a lot, sorry for the people online. If you look at the southbound off-ramp leg, you'll see that it has a relatively sharp corner entering the roundabout, so drivers will naturally slow down. One of the benefits, though, is that they don't need to stop, so they're able to enter when it's clear rather than stopping at a red light. So it'll allow better volume off of I-5 than a light generally would.
Okay, question specific to that. As people are exiting the freeway, unless they see lights coming up ahead that are red, green, or yellow, they continue at full speed until they see such. In this case, we won't see any lights coming off the freeway anymore. We will just see a bunch of cars backed up, stacked up around the roundabout, and it's too late, and you're applying the brakes and running into the traffic in the roundabout. Is there a way to second think maybe blinking yellow caution lights on the rampway to signal people that they are going to at least need to slow down before they enter traffic at a much slower speed?
So one of the things that I think I mentioned in the previous answer is that the lanes, there's a lot of passive design.
But that doesn't happen until when you get right at the roundabout. You have a long way to go
Right.
not decreasing in speed.
Well, so I think what you're saying is that that corner, that sharp radius doesn't happen until you're much closer to the roundabout. There's the channelization actually narrows. There's a lot of ways that channelization design can limit the speed of traffic. Like people don't go as fast on narrower lanes or sharp turn lanes or ones that have like, I don't want to say visual obstruction, but like a narrowing of the roadway. So if there's trees, things along that nature. And so roundabout legs have elements of that in order to passively slow people down so that there doesn't need to be a light. I will say when you're talking about flashing amber lights, every leg of the roundabout, with the exceptions that go across the bridge, have pedestrian RRFBs, which are similar to what you see outside of school zones. And so that will have a flashing light element when somebody is crossing the road. And that's to assist drivers in the knowledge that, hey, there's a pedestrian there. But as far as the traffic itself that's coming off their freeway, there are those passive elements that get people to slow down just because that's the more comfortable way for them to operate as they approach whatever obstruction they're getting to.
Right. Well, the only reason that I was suggesting this is because there are a lot of new roundabouts, especially off of Highway 12 in eastern Washington, through Yakima, around the Tri-Cities, going into Walla Walla. And on the off-ramp, there is a sign with a blinking yellow light and a visual on the sign so that you know a roundabout is coming up as opposed to just all of the sudden it being there.
Yeah, and we have that same signage, we just don't have that blinking yellow light.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there will be some kind
Oh,
of
yes.
signage. There'll be
Yes.
some kind of warning that you are approaching a new kind of intersection.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So there is that classic roundabout symbol with the arrows that go around, and then the cautionary sign that says 15 miles an hour in this case as you approach. Yeah.
Or some kind of visual.
Yeah, and that'll be on all legs of the roundabout. So.
Other questions online?
No.
Anyone else? Yeah? I'm going to give you the mic.
Since like the first 3 days that the freeway was open going south, I've lived here a long time, there's never been a light at 145th southbound. Is that still going to be the case? Like a traffic control light like the...
I can't speak to WashDOT's, long-term intentions, but there is no current plan to put a metering system there.
Okay. I mean, it was there like the first 3 days, and it was such a disaster. They took it out. It's been gone ever since.
Right, yeah. It's one of the few interchanges in the area that has no plan to have a meter currently.
Another question. During construction of all the roundabouts, I see it's going to continue like the end of the third quarter of next year. Is everything going to stay open? You've got it figured out to where we're going to be able to move through this area without having to have it totally closed?
For the most part, we'll never have the whole
Like
area
overnight
completely
closures maybe or
closed.
something,
Yeah, so in order to do some of the realignment of the ramps in particular, we will have to have some extended closures. So there'll be some weekend ramp closures, and then there'll be one period of like a 9-day closure, which is, I'll be honest, going to be painful. But it is, unfortunately, with the grades we're working with, it's the only way we can make that happen. So there'll be some short-term closures in very specific areas. We'll have to do something similar on the east side as well, and overnight closures and things like that. But primarily, once we open 145th towards or at the beginning of 2025, we'll be able to maintain that east-west traffic. And then the ramps will stay open except for those weekend closures and that one extended.
Thank you.
I appreciate the 147th pedestrian and bike tour that you have open now. I was wondering how long that's going to be open, because the real benefit of that is that it's a much lower elevation gain than riding on Fifth Avenue or in the future taking 145th over to First Avenue. So how much longer is that going to be open?
You're talking about 147th?
The 147th ped detour?
Yeah, so we do want to get people back onto 145th as quick as possible. We find that that helps protect them from going through the work zone. I won't name particular groups of students that go to Lakeside that like to walk through our work zone. I'm definitely not doing that, but the longer we have a detour open, the more likely they are to walk through our work zone. So our current plan is that by the end of October, we will have a semi-permanent paved path back on 145th that will be the detour, or not the detour route, will be the pedestrian route through the closure. And then you'll continue to use that while it's being constructed, the rest of it's being constructed. So you'll be on a paved path, but it'll be the permanent alignment until we replace it with concrete at a later date. So the detour is only for a couple months onto 147th.
Okay, so then it's going to be closed.
The pathway between the ramp and 147th will be torn out, so we can do, we still need to work in that area and provide a new driving path for the vault and whatnot, but yeah, it'll be effectively closed.
Thanks.
But am I hearing correctly that you like the 147th path?
It's much flatter, so it's much more accessible for cyclists. 'Cause
Gotcha.
this area is so hilly.
It is, yeah.
And eventually with the bridge coming up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of ways, unfortunately.
That was the next question.
Which part? It's already started. You're talking about the 148th non-motorized bridge? Yeah, so they've started on the east side next to the light rail station. And then phase 2, Tavia, do you remember when that advertises?
I think soon. I'm not sure. I don't
Yeah.
have a date yet.
I think our goal is to have, it's being federally funded. So we want to, one of the requirements we need to do is have it obligated. And I think that's supposed to happen this month, and then that allows us to advertise the project. So I'm assuming, you know what, I'm not gonna guess. It's being worked on. And if you want to, I think there's a project page for 148th Bridge. So if you're on Tavia, is 148th on Engage?
It is not, but there is a
Okay.
project webpage at shorelinewa.gov/148 bridge.
Yeah, and so that'll have some schedule updates rather than me guessing and committing Lee to things that he can't deliver on.
Speaking of bridges, the 145th Bridge, are you guys going to work on that? Because that, before this all started, was in serious need of some repair, particularly the expansion joints that was almost getting to the point where you could look down in the CI-5. Is this going to be, are you guys going to stop this, finish this and then do the bridge? Or is this part of the bridge will be included in this? Or not?
No, unfortunately, the bridge won't be included in this. So that's a bridge that's owned by WashDOT, and they have their own schedule for and maintenance outlook on being able to repair that. We have had conversations with them about the condition of the bridge. It would be a bit too onerous for this project to take on. So the work we're doing on the bridge is doing some restriping to accommodate the operations of the roundabout, but the ultimate replacement of the bridge is up to WashDOT.
We have a question online that I'm gonna see if David in our control room can aim the camera towards the map on the floor, and then maybe Corey, I can hand a mic to, because somebody is asking, can you indicate with your arrow on the screen, and I really can't because it doesn't show up very well, how to approach the roundabout and travel onto the freeway, please? And the person's just a little bit confused by all the markings. So if you could do a little walk and talk. Do you have a car that you could?
I could get on hands and knees.
Yeah, I think David's in, maybe he can't hear me, in the control room.
Did they have a direction of I-5 they wanted to go? And which direction they're coming from?
That is not indicated in the question, but I think we could pick one.
I think we should go southbound in that slip lane, heading east.
Yes.
On 145th.
I guess
What
they
if- what
can
if I-
see it. So I'm going to hand the mic to you and you can be the expert.
Also-
But that's not our map, that's the, what's the? Oh, okay.
I think what would be helpful too, since we're talking about something that's a substantial change, I see this protected, isolated lane going southbound. There's human beings that will drive in their vehicles, and I, for one, have made a mistake of going forward when I meant to go to the right and take a southbound entrance. So I know that there's an option for you to continue onto the southbound, and
They said southbound from the west side of the freeway? We'll just do southbound, both directions. Okay, so pretend I am on the west side of I-5 in the Parkwood area. I'm coming down 145th. The southbound on-ramp is to the near side of the freeway for me, so I'm gonna select the right lane. Actually, I'm gonna go through my steps. So as I come down the hill, I'm gonna see the roundabout sign and I'm gonna start slowing down. And then the next sign I'm gonna see is one that helps me with my lane selection. And I'll see in the left lane, it'll go straight. And in the right lane, I can go either straight or to the right. And then I'll also see a little iconography on the ground that says South I-5. And it'll be right before one of the markers on the road. That one right there. Oh, I thought she was gonna come up and walk it with me. I guess not. Oh, that's better than my foot.
I can kneel and I can point.
I appreciate this. This is nice. I was thinking about these two lanes up here. Right. Okay. Yes. So that car is coming down the right lane. It is driving over the South I-5. Oh, yeah, you're going. That's way more than 15 miles per hour. Okay, and then as you approach a little closer, you'll actually see a little bit of a slip lane, which will allow you to go directly onto the freeway without going into the roundabout. Now, if that's not something you want to do, you can continue to go straight past the little chicken scratch lane selection, and then you can enter the roundabout and then also take the right. So that's allowed from both of those lanes. And so that's how you would get on I-5 southbound coming from the west side from the park route. We're not going to walk through that one. There is the opportunity to keep going around the roundabout as many times as you want. No, I'm just joking. Don't do that. Yeah, so you want to walk to the other side of the city with me? Yes, coming from the Ridgecrest neighborhood. So this is the slightly more complicated one, but you're going to use the same selection process.
Are we going to go north?
I think we're working on south right now.
Yeah, southbound.
Yeah. So again, as you're approaching the roundabout, you're going to slow down to 15 miles per hour. You're going to locate your lane identifier. Whoa, oh man, oh, whoa, back it on up. Come back with me, Patty. Oh man, okay. So we're gonna approach that lane selection sign, and we're gonna see that we wanna go straight to the other side of the freeway in order to get on southbound I-5. We're also gonna have some signs way back here by 6th Avenue, one lane that says South I-5 and one that says North I-5. So if we're trying to head south, we're gonna be in the left lane, and it's gonna show us going straight. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's right. And so then you'll go straight, like your lane selector said, and then you're going to be over I-5, and you're going to approach another series or another decision point. And you'll also see that southbound I-5 is in the left lane, along with an arrow that says straight or left. And so you'll enter the roundabout, and you'll continue around to the left, and then there you are. You're right on the ramp. And there will be some signs like normal ramps where you'll see freeway entrance on that ramp. So should be pretty apparent. Once you're in there, you're able to just go through that little spiral transition. Nobody's going to ask about it? Okay. And then we'll continue on the ramp. Sure. Yeah. You want to do northbound from both sides? Okay, so coming from the Ridgecrest, because that's where my pointer is. All right, so as you approach that decision point, you're going to see the northbound I-5 in the right lane on the pavement and also on the sign. And it'll be one of those straight or right arrows. And so you'll want to go to the right. Yep, there you go. And then you'll merge or move over into that left turn only lane. Yep, and there will be more signs. We couldn't fit everything on here because it's a little busy, but yeah, you'll take that left and then you'll get on this existing ramp that's there right now. So nothing up. There will be a light at that intersection, that's correct. There is now, yeah, exactly. We did just do that. Do you want to do it again? Okay, all right, fine. Somebody doesn't want fun in roundabouts. Did you want to go from Parkwood in that same way, or a new volunteer wants to go? Yeah, so from the Parkwood area, right? Do you want to give it an attempt? Okay, all right. So coming from Parkwood, what's that? Yeah, you're just threatening me with a good time right now. All right, so coming from, do you want to continue to point, Patty? Yeah. Okay. All right, so when we're coming from the Parkwood area, we're going to approach that same roundabout. So where are we going? Oh, we're coming from Parkwood to northbound I-5. You're on the off ramp right now from I-5. We want to be over here. Yeah, you don't live over there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way. You're coming from First Ave. Yep. Yeah, so you're in that left lane, crossing at a way too high rate of speed, but that's all right. Yep. Yeah, and so what she did there is she stayed in the left lane, and then there's another marking on the ground here for North I-5, which shows going to the left. So you'll stay in, you'll wrap around the roundabout, and then you take that same signalized intersection here onto the existing ramp to northbound I-5. Thanks, Patty. You can keep that hanger if you want. It's a good one. Oh, sorry. I can't give those away, apparently.
Okay, Corey, ready for a new question?
Absolutely.
Right here.
Oh, there you are. Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Currently, there is a kind of a location on the southbound on-ramp for the bus to pick up people. Is that going to go away since there is now light rail?
Are you talking about the flyer stop here? Yeah. So that
on the on-ramp, southbound on-ramp.
Yeah. So if you look in this area, when you have an opportunity to come up, you'll see that we've greened over the flyer stop. That is going away.
I figured that.
This project is not removing it. It's actually being demolished as part of the Thornton Creek Fish Passage project, which is being conducted by WashDOT.
Yeah, because I figured they no longer needed that with the light rail station.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. So I think they're not doing bus service on I-5 out of this location anymore. But KC Metro would know more than me. Yeah.
Speaking of buses, the new route, the 333, is there going to be a bus stop close to either one of those? Because when a bus stop is close to an intersection, you just get backed up like crazy. Nowadays, they have a detour for it. It just started, but they're detouring it around.
Right.
But do you know roughly how many bus stops how many stops you're gonna have on 145th going either east or west?
Yeah, so the primary bus stop during this phase of the project that we're in support of constructing for KC Metro is going to be at First Avenue. So that's the only one will be within this project's footprint. As we move on to phases 2 and 3, and I start walking out this door towards Aurora, there'll be a couple more bus stops. So I think we'll have 3 in total. at full build out, but the nearest one will be here at First Avenue. Did we have an online question? Oh, okay.
So just real quick, so the pedestrian access currently during construction across I-5 on 145th is on the south side of the bridge, right? Or
It's
is
on
it
the-
on the north?
It's on the north side.
Okay, because I actually was at a resident about where the on-ramp is the other day, and seeing people come across the bridge, and that in itself was kind of frightening since everything's all torn up. But my biggest concern from what I could see is when they had to cross at the crosswalk at the northbound on-ramp. And the pedestrians really weren't paying attention.
Are you talking
Yes, I
this
am
one right
talking
here?
right there.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was probably, within the time that I was there, probably saw 15 different people crossing there.
Uh-huh.
So it's getting a lot of traffic. They aren't particularly aware. They're totally in a hurry to hurry up and get to the train station. But I don't know if there's any kind of way to make that any safer during the interim. It's going to be a while before we have a real pedestrian bridge, so that's going to be an issue for quite some time.
Yeah, and so the work that's happened over there currently is with the Sound Transit Project, and so they have a signal that's right here, and it's in, I actually don't remember what the exact state of operation it is right now, but part of that is pedestrian crossing signals. We are...
That means that you have to keep...
Wait, Patty,
Yeah, that means you need to be able to keep through their signaling, to keep northbound traffic, vehicle traffic, heading towards the northbound ramp, have to stop before they get to that crosswalk, because otherwise they don't see the pedestrians.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And so this is supposed to be a signalized intersection. So there should be a red arrow that they're not going through. Is it playtime? Do we get to play with the cars?
come on up and get some cards.